All right, so we talked about some of the whys. We talked about the environment. Now we're going to talk about certain tools and tips. But understand, I really don't have anything today that's too difficult. I mean, it's just some common sense kind of things, maybe some techniques that will be helpful. Ultimately, what you'll wind up doing is playing with the kids' minds. All right. Because the goal here is to, first of all, help them learn how to be responsible for their own behavior. I mean, isn't it true that there are often times that we spend an awful lot more time thinking about our kids' behaviors than they think about their own behaviors? And so what we'd really like to do is get to the point where they're thinking more about how they're behaving than we are. That they're putting in as much energy, as much mental energy on it, and putting as much sweat into it as we do. And so some of what we're going to talk about is the goal is to help hand those behaviors back over to the kids, help them to make some good decisions about those, so that they can grow up to make good decisions later on in life.
Oh, it's not you.
It's not me.
Just got a promise I made to my wife. If I put it back,
I thought you saw the title. It's not all about you. That's okay. I got counted for him being in here, so you can go anywhere you want to now. So agree or disagree? Here's a statement. Kids today don't make enough mistakes. Agree or disagree?
It's true.
Why would you say that?
Them so much, and some of it's good. I mean, like the seatbelts and things, but I'm tougher. I survived being in 13 people in a hatchback. Waterwood Church.
Yeah.
Half an hour. I almost suffocated many Sundays, but and left people at church sometimes without knowing, but had to go back and get them.
Yeah. How some of the rest of you? Agree or disagree? Kids today don't make enough mistakes.
That's true. Because of that, like protective mechanism, I think kids sometimes don't try things. They have a fear of failure maybe more at a higher rate than used to be.
Yeah.
So they don't have that mistake that allows them to learn.
Yeah.
I think their mistakes can be the older kids anyway, more hidden.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make mistakes, like things that they say are lying. Either it's kind of hidden, at least from parents, it's hidden.
And by the time they get to that point, their mistakes become much more consequential. We live in a society that does everything it can to help kids not feel pain. And so parents, teachers who will do everything they can to prevent kids from making mistakes, from messing anything up. We don't want them to feel pain. We don't want them to feel bad. And it's not because we don't love them, it's because we do love them. We want what's best for them. But unfortunately, we get this idea that if they don't make any mistakes, if they don't have that pain, then we're really loving them and we're really giving them what they want, what they need. But the fact of the matter is, the only way to learn how to be responsible is to make mistakes. You got to learn that you make mistakes and then you do something about it. So what we want to do, one of the things that does for us as teachers and as parents and as grandparents, whatever stage of life that you're in, it helps you to see mistakes in a different light. Mistakes are not fatal. Mistakes are not the end of it. Mistakes are a stepping stone to learning something significant. In fact, I want you to change your terminology. Those of you who know me much and have been in any of my classes know that I do quite a bit with love and logic here. And so mistakes are no longer mistakes. They are now significant learning opportunities. And we want them to have as many significant learning opportunities as possible while they're young, so that whenever they get older and they have those more consequential decisions to make, they know how to handle them. Just one real quick story along those lines. One of the individuals who is responsible for love and logic discipline, Jim Fay, he tells a story about his son, Charlie. And he said that when Charlie was in high school, there was a party that was coming up on a Friday night that Charlie really wanted to go to. It was going to be the event of the semester. Everybody was going to be there. Everybody needed to be there. So he went to Dad and he said, "Dad, can I borrow the car Friday?" And Jim said, "Well, what's going on?" I said, "I got to go to this party. Everybody's going to be there." Well, he checked with his wife and he said, "I'm sorry, Charlie, but sorry, Charlie, that's pretty good, isn't it?" He said, I need one of the cars. My mom needs the other car. We really can't let you borrow one of them Friday night. He said, "Why don't you call Nathan?" Nathan was his best friend. He said, "Call Nathan. I'm sure Nathan could take you." And Charlie said, "No, that's all right, Dad. It's not that important for me to go anyway. I'll just, no, that's okay." And he went to his room. Well, Jim wasn't going to stop with that one because this was, it was life and death decision before. Now it doesn't matter. So he went in and said, "Charlie, tell me what's going on here? This doesn't make sense." He said, "No, Dad, really, I don't want to get into it." I said, "No, Charlie, you got to tell me, why don't you want to go to the party now?" He said, "Well, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to feel negative about Nathan." He said, "It's just whenever we go to parties like this, Nathan likes to spike the punch with things. And he winds up drinking too much, and I just don't feel safe getting a ride from him after the party's over with." So Jim said, "Well, that's okay. I trust you, and I appreciate the decision you made." Saturday morning, Jim came down and he got the paper when it got in, and he sat down and started reading the paper as he was eating his breakfast. And there on the front page, they live in the Denver area. And on the front page was a story and a picture about a car that had gone over the edge of a cliff after a party on Friday night. It killed the driver and 4 passengers in the car, all of them teenagers. And the driver's name was Nathan. He said, "My son was one decision short of life and death situation." So, helping our kids through their mistakes, through their misbehaviors, through those responsible situations is extremely key for us, not just from a convenience or a comfortable side of it, but I mean, this is sometimes life and death. And as we know, it's got spiritual consequences assigned to it as well. So number one, if we want to help our kids grow in responsibility, we got to know how to help them do that. And there's a 4-step plan. I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but we can do this in classes. We can do this in activities outside of class with kids. And that's helping them learn how to develop responsibility. We've talked about it some in here of helping to assign tasks in class. So step number 1 is to assign a task. Give them things they can handle. Let them have ownership of what happens in class. Now, what that means is, depending on the age, the tasks are going to vary. You give them things that they can handle, things that are age appropriate. And so that helps build that self-esteem. That helps build their understanding that, hey, I'm responsible for something. I'm supposed to do this. Step number 2 is give them a chance to fail. Give them a chance to have a significant learning opportunity. You give a child a task and it looks like they're going to blow it. Be very careful about jumping in and saying, no, do it this way. Or wait, you don't let it play out. Give them a chance to see how that's going to turn out. Step number 3 is when they blow it, then you give equal parts of empathy and consequence to let the teaching happen. See, the consequence we understand. Kids need to be able to suffer their consequences so that they know this behavior led to this feeling, therefore I don't want to do this anymore because I don't want to feel this anymore. And that can be, we'll talk about consequences here in just a moment, a little bit more, probably in the next session. But empathy is an important part of it. Because empathy says, I care about you, I'm feeling with you, and I'm pulling myself alongside you as you go through this negative feeling. And it sounds something like this. The kid makes a significant learning opportunity. And the first thing out of your mouth when the kid messes up is what?
Told you so.
Do what?
Told you so.
Yeah, told you so. I can't trust you with anything. No, that's not very empathetic, is it?
And sad I can be.
Oh, that's our initial reaction. We get upset.
I told you, you do it this way, you'll be successful. Kid decides to do their own thing.
Yeah,
It fails. And then we're like, he should listen.
that's right. And the kid closes his ears and won't listen to anything after that. Oh yeah, well, you were dumb. You didn't tell me the right thing, or it wasn't my fault. It was. We pull the side alongside of them. And so it sounds something like this. How sad. Isn't that terrible? Pitiful. How sad. Or it can be one, my wife's personal favorite is, oh man.
Yep, that's mine. Oh.
Oh.
I don't even get to man.
Oh. Oh man. Or my personal favorite, what a bummer.
I like
What a
that.
bummer. Or you can say something like, what a problem. And see, when they hear this, they figure out pretty quickly, number one, you use the same one over and over and over and over again, because what it does is it puts you alongside instead of at a distance, and it lets them know that you care, and it also turns on a little light bulb after they hear it enough times. Oh, I'm about to learn something. Oh man, what a bummer. What a problem. Now, we had a lady who was in one of our classes, and she said she heard, you got to pick a empathetic statement that you can say it sincerely, empathetically. And she had heard one on SpongeBob SquarePants. Now, I tried to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. I couldn't get through one episode. I just felt my brain turn to mush. But her empathetic statement was tartar sauce. So what she said, there's that tartar sauce. And then we were teaching a class over at Hardwick Elementary one time, and there was a guy that came in there. He was this great big guy. I mean, he was just huge and just a big burly kind of, outdoorsy kind of a guy. He says, oh yeah, I do that with my kids all the time. They mess up, I just say rats. So his was rats. So you give them something they can do. When they have that significant learning opportunity, you let them do it. Number three is you use your empathetic statement. And then number 4 is you let them try again. God is a God of second chances. And so they didn't get it right the first time. Well, I guess I got to do it for you. I knew it, you couldn't do it. Well, that doesn't teach them anything. Life is about trial and error. That's the way Jesus dealt with Peter. That's the way God deals with us. And so we give kids a chance to do that. So how do we get kids to focus more on their behavior? That's one way, giving them those things that they can do and let them focus on how well they do it, be able to make up for mistakes and things, going through the consequences, doing it again. So what are some other things that we do? Well, the next thing we do is make sure that our kids understand what's expected. Sometimes we go into a class situation and we just make assumptions. Oh, they know what to do. They know what the expectation is. They know they're supposed to listen. They know they're supposed to sit still. They know they're supposed to, and we make all these assumptions because they've always been in Bible class. They've always been in church. They should understand these things. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is, if you want to put rules up in a room to kind of give those expectations in some written format, try to be careful about not being too specific with the rules. Why do you not need to be too specific?
You'd have millions of rules if you get specific.
Wouldn't it? What does the kid do when you say, don't run?
Skip.
They might skip. They might hop. They might crawl. They might roll. Now, what do I want them to do?
Wow.
I want them to walk.
So you tell them to walk. Don't
So
tell
you
them
make
what you don't want.
positive statements. In a classroom situation, these would be my 4 rules in a classroom situation with kids. This is how we behave in our room. Notice it's we behave, it's our room. This is ownership. This is our space. It makes God happy when we share. It makes God happy when we help. It makes God happy when we obey. And it makes God happy when we listen.
That's good.
And that covers a whole broad range of behaviors that don't fit under those. It makes God happy when we share. It makes God happy when we help. It makes God happy when we obey. It makes God happy when we listen. And then there's the little tagline under it. You can do anything you want to in this class as long as it doesn't cause a problem for anyone else on the planet. You know? That way, if your voice is too loud, it's causing a problem for me. And that I'm another person on the planet. But, so very important rule. So changing behaviors through reminders. Think of the different kinds of verbal cues that you might be able to help a kid with. I love this because some of you, I'm sure, have seen this in some classroom situations. You've seen it maybe in some camp situations and things like that. I want to show you, you might have seen some of these videos where these teachers have these verbal cues that they give to kids in order for them to listen. All right, so just to kind of play a few of those, you see what we're talking about.
Hey, stop, look, listen, waterfall. Look that. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. 1, 2, eyes on you. Hocus pocus. Let's not focus. Red Robin. Yeah.
So you come up with just a quick little phrase. If you got kids that are starting to get a little bit loud, a little bit rambunctious, or maybe it's the beginning of class and you're trying to get their attention, rather than going quiet, quiet. I loved what Bergen did is he was trying to get people's attention before the devotional. But I thought he said, "All rise." He said, "All right." Why? Well, if he had done something like that, you know. I've even seen where you do, you know, and it takes some practice with the kids. And so at the beginning of the quarter, you might do a little practicing. You know, I've seen some where they'll start with 2 claps, and the kids know they repeat the 2 claps, something like that. Here are some others that I love what this next guy does.
We're about to teach you a tool that is essential for fun, effective group management. I'm talking about the attention gap. These are used to get groups to stop what they're doing and focus. I'm gonna let my good friend Coach Sean show you how it works in action.
Give me my boys, clap twice, clap once, clap 0 times. All right, give me my boys, match me, match me, match me. Hands on top. Happy stop.
Don't try this with babies and toddlers. It'd be great.
Give me my boys, show me muscle fingers. Alligator.
Little kids, this one.
Bubble in the mouth.
Give me my boys, put the leg up. And hush down the crowd.
I tried to come up with some for Bible class, something like Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, ears are shut, no, ears are open, here we go.
That's what I learned.
That is a lot of words. So then I came up with Jonah, gulp.
I've done, I am dearly loved, and it's in child of
Yeah, yeah. Or you could do something like Bible, yes, that's the book for me. Just something, and of course, depending on the age of kids, you got to make it simple. You got to make it something that's relatable. Just something though that you can practice where, and you may have to practice a few times for them to get it, where they know when this is said, this is done, and you got their attention. Some verbal cues like that. Verbal cues like praise and encouragement is always good. I like the way so and so is sitting. You know, I like the way. And when you start doing praise, it's interesting how praise and encouragement is contagious. And so again, doesn't work with all kids, but some it will. Counting up or counting down, giving time for that change to take place. And I've even seen it at times where it's more of a visual cue, where I've done this with kids, especially when we had some activities up here during the summer, where all I have to do is come up and I just start going like this. And as soon as one kid sees me, then the others start seeing it. And even doing it at times where all the kids have to join me, and counting down like that. Different attention getters like we just talked about, or even humor. Using rewind. They didn't do it right the first time. Okay, rewind. Let's do it again. You can even make it fun if you want to. All right, let's do it again. One of the things my wife has done with, especially, like I said, she taught kindergarten, but she's done it with all ages kids, where if they didn't get it right the first time, let's just keep practicing until they get it right. And may have to practice it 3 times. Oh, you did. Oh, this is so sad. Oh, man. You didn't get it right the first time. I guess we're going to have to practice again. Let's go back and let's do it. Okay, I want to make sure you got it this time. Let's try it again. And she'd do it 3 times for them to get it. Just those reminders, those verbal and visual reminders. This is how we do that. Or flip the switch. You say, let's flip the switch on you and change that behavior. And a little switch in there. If you can attack poor behavior with a little bit of humor, things that the kids think is just really silly. It's funny how they have a hard time getting mad at you. Now, some kids who are already mad, they might get mad. Like I said, you got to decide what's happening in what situation. Or the grouchies. Oh, it looks like you got the grouchies today. Shake them out. Or maybe, oh, got the rowdy bug today. Let's all shake them out, get rid of them, and do something something fun to help focus kids' attention on something. What other verbal cues have you seen work either for you or somebody else? Something that's said.
I saw a lady at Sunset. She's the one who adopted all the 2 sets of kids. She'd adopted a family of, I think it was like 4 or 5 kids maybe. And then they were asked to adopt another set for the church to keep them all together. And they still attend Sunset. I think most of the kids have aged out of your program. She, with having 11 kids at home, she's really good at organizing and keeping them straight. And I watched her as she had one of the little girls that she'd adopted walk up. Some girl said, "I'm going to so-and-so's house and there's nothing you can do to stop me." And I thought, whoa, that was aggressive. Can't wait to see the flashbangs and the bombs going off. And she's like, "Oh, I don't think that was how you meant to tell me that." And the girl just changed because "Mother, may I please go to so-and-so's house? I'd really like to go and I'll do my chores or whatever, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Okay, I think maybe you can do that." And I was just like, oh my goodness, that's genius. And then another time she had another kid come up to her. She was like, "I don't think that's how you meant to say it. Try it again." And they got a little less snotty. And she's like, "No, that wasn't it yet. Try it again." And they got a little less snotty. And finally they said it in a neutral voice. She's like, "Oh, that's great. Okay." And so that really worked well with my girls when they were teenagers. They'd be so snotty. It's like, "Oh, try that again." And when they got tired of being snotty and they wanted to go on and do their own thing, they'd say it in a neutral tone of voice and everything was fine. But it didn't bother me. It was just like, try that again.
Yeah. One of the things we'll emphasize in the last session is there is only one person you can control. Who is it?
Yourself.
Yourself. And we spend so much time trying to control the behavior of other people that we don't focus on the behavior of the one person we can control, which does a couple of things. Number one, it models for the child good behavior. See, whenever I respond in anger or in frustration or whatever it is that I respond with, if I respond with those things, what's it teaching the child? That's how you're supposed to respond in those situations. You respond to poor behavior with poor behavior. But if I can respond calmly, if I can respond with empathy, if I can respond in a proper way, that gets, what I want, then they learn also that there's a certain behavior that can get what they want and what they need. There's visual cues. We talked about the counting down. Many places have used reward charts to help kids learn something. I've seen a different version of reward charts, which is a connect the dots chart, where you might pick a good connect dots book, you put a different picture up for each child, and then whenever they're caught with good behaviors or they're caught doing something that you want them to do, we'll go move from 1 to 2, go from 2 to 3, and once you get all the picture completed, then there's something at the end that they can enjoy. Now, there's a lot of discussion about, well, should you use intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation when it comes to behavior? What would you say?
All of it.
Whatever works, right? But extrinsic motivation is so shallow, isn't it?
It's the only reason why we go to work.
It's to get that paycheck. What we hope is the extrinsic motivations get trained and ingrained in the person so it becomes intrinsic as they grow. It's okay to start. That's what consequences are about. That's what punishment that we give as kids. Grounding. Anybody ever use grounding with their older kids? That's what back in the day, spankings. Anybody here ever get spankings? Of course we did. That was an extrinsic motivation that we learned pretty quickly. I don't want to do that anymore. We turned it internal. So yeah, extrinsic motivations have their place, and so we go ahead and use some of
I
those.
really like to look at those because I've had several teachers say, well, I don't like to use reward, or I don't like to use, I don't know if they call them rewards or bribes or whatever. I look at them as a celebration.
Right.
I think when we achieve a certain thing, we celebrate with the kid and we celebrate by giving them a prize or something like that. It's a celebration. It's not a paycheck, I guess.
Yeah. We've had a program here for a number of years called Faith Builders program, where part of it was as kids do certain behaviors in Bible class, or if they get caught outside of Bible class doing proper behaviors, then they get a ticket. And we've got a prize center similar to what you see at Chuck E. Cheese's or some of those other places where they can go and spend those tickets at the prize center. What's interesting is the serendipitous lessons that have come about because of those. I mean, they can be in Bible class, they get a ticket if they brought their Bible, they get a ticket if they learned a memory verse, they can get a ticket if they brought a friend, they can get a ticket for several different things. But if they get caught doing something good, then they can get a ticket for that. They shared their crayon, they gave up a seat for a friend, they just a number of things like that. And so they would save up these tickets.
Random reinforcement.
Do what?
Random reinforcement.
Yeah. Then what we learned was some of them were learning the benefit of delayed gratification, because they would go to the ticket counter and they would say, I want to spend my ticket. Oh, that looks good over there. No, I'm going to save these because I want that. And so they learned how to do that. Then they learned the joy of and the blessing of blessing others, because they said, oh, I know somebody who'd really like that. I want to use my tickets to buy that for somebody else. So just all sorts of things that you try one thing that will help celebrate good behavior and how it dominoes into some other things as well. That's been really good for us. I've seen some places when you're using books in class, pick good books that have character traits or good behavior traits. And sometimes just read the book for the sake of learning that good behavior to show what is expected. We have some other verbal cues and stuff. One of the things we learned, there was if kids are kind of having a hard time focusing in the class, we came up with these little things that are called focus cards. And we've also got them, we can just hold up like that. That way, it's kind of like the attention getters, 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me. Well, sometimes you just hold up one of these, time to focus again. And it's got things like, this is how we focus. It has a child who's mouth shut. It has sitting down still. It's the listening. It's hands in lap or sitting down flat, feet still, and that sort of thing. And so it's just, the teacher didn't have to say anything. It's just this. Or some classes will sometimes use a stop sign. They'll just hold up the stop sign. Now, one of the things that my wife has also done from a visual standpoint is if it's story time and the kids are not listening, you can't get them to pay attention. Well, she'll grab the book and she'll just kind of sit down there and she'll just start looking at it, just enjoying it. Don't always have to say just a whole lot because, what are you reading? Oh, it's all right. I'm just enjoying myself. I'd love to share it with you, but we spend a lot of time trying to get people to stop doing things instead of inviting them to join us in certain things. One of the things, too, I told you about the importance of predictability and routine. One of the things we've done in some of our classes, some teachers use this, others don't, but it's always kind of helpful. We've come up with kind of the schedule cards. And so the schedule cards have the different activities that are going to be happening during class that day. And so we'll even go up, and these have matics on them, and so we'll put them up here. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to do some puzzles and coloring as you come in, some singing, then we'll have our Bible story, then we're going to pray, then we'll have another story, just whatever activities that you think you might have for that day, and put them up on the board. You may have kids that really don't enjoy singing. They really enjoy the arts and crafts. Well, if they start saying, but I wanted to, well, first we're going to do this, and then we'll get to this. So one of the things it tells the kids is, I may not enjoy this so much right now, but I know you're going to get to something I do enjoy. And so it lets them anticipate that and understand, yeah, their time is coming, instead of them wondering, are you ever going to do anything that's going to be fun for me? But then it gives them that predictability and that routine. Oh, I see what I'm going to do. Now, one of the things, especially, this has been helpful if you've got kids in the class that have special needs. Because special needs thrive and need that structure, need that routine. And so they can see what's going on. And in fact, we may even have a special one that's made just for them where they're sitting so that they can follow along, and maybe even with a dry erase marker or a pen that someone can kind of check it off as we do each one so they can see how we're progressing through the class, and then to get that visual clue that something good is happening, something special is coming up. So that's been very helpful for us. In the handout that I'll give you next session, the packet of information, there's one sheet in there that specifically deals with dealing with kids with special needs. Because I know, especially in a lot of our churches, there's always a discussion about whether you have a class specifically for special needs, whether you include them with other children. Most of us don't have that luxury of making decisions like that. They're with the rest of the kids, and oftentimes, if possible, that's a good place to be. But there's some special things that can be done with special needs children. For example, one of the things that we do with our special needs kids, and you might do this from time to time with a child they just have a hard time getting this behavior thing together. Then we assign what we call a bestest buddy. Now, what that means is you got to recruit another person, and that sometimes is a challenge. But if you can find that individual out there who is compassionate, who loves to help, loves to serve, but they don't teach. They don't want to teach a lesson. They don't know how to teach a lesson. They don't want to learn how to teach a lesson. But all they need to do is to focus on this one child during Bible class. There's a lot of folks out there that if they're asked and they've got those expectations, they'll do it. They know they don't have to do the other preparation. All I've got to do is I am needed to be there just to love on one kid. And I focus on that one kid. And I help that kid stay focused. I have that kid be a part of what's going on and engaged. And it helps that child, but what it also does is it allows the teacher to focus on the class instead of just that one individual. So that's our bestest buddies. Using little fidgets, those little dot bubble, what are they called?
Poppers.
Poppers, thank you. Wish I'd had one of those when I was a kid. Missed out.
I have a whole bucket. Everybody has to have one when they come in
Yeah.
because
It's a great behavior modification technique. Little fidgets, things that aren't going to get in the way. God, those energetic kids especially, something to keep their hands moving.
We're anxious kids.
Anxious kids, yeah. Give them things like that. What do you think? What questions, what ideas have you seen along those lines? Helping kids focus. Because it's not all about us as the teacher, it's about helping the kids figure out it's about them and it's about their behavior. I told you it wasn't going to be rocket science. Something really simple. Just helping kids to focus and have control over their own themselves. Okay, we're going to take a break. I'm going to reset for the next pre-class. Get ready. And then we'll have 2 or 3 specific techniques that these may take a little bit of practice in order for you to feel completely comfortable with them. But if you'll use them, I have learned as a parent and as a teacher, there's one of the techniques in particular that you can just run the world on it. I mean, it just works. You've already alluded to it just a moment ago, and I'll explain more here in just a little bit. So let's take a break, and we'll come back together here in about 15 minutes.